Hi, I'm Beck and welcome to my anticipated releases. These are some more anticipated releases for 2023, but it's been great that a few more announcements have been made throughout the beginning of the year, so I know that more things that I'm excited about are coming for the later half. So the first one that I want to talk about is by one of my favourite authors, Sebastian de Castell. He is releasing the Malevolent 7, which is, I think, a new book in a new series entirely by him. I was expecting more Greatcoat stuff, but clearly that's been pushed back or revised or something, because we've had a few moving dates for Play of Shadows. So I'm like, well, maybe we're not getting that book after all and it will become something else. But I'm excited now that the Malevolent 7 comes out, because that's releasing in May around my birthday, and I have pre-ordered the audiobook so I can just start listening to it as soon as it's available. So it's like happy birthday to me. And I believe this follows an underdog character, which is kind of classic with Sebastian de Castell, who has to take on all of these wizards that are evil, hence Malevolent 7. And I don't know if this character takes them on by himself or what, but it feels very much like if The Boys met a high fantasy story. That is the vibe it's giving me. So I'm hoping that it's gruesome and very character driven and just very dynamic. I'm looking forward to it quite a lot, if you couldn't tell. And the audiobook is narrated by Joe Jameson, who also did the Trader's Blade Greatcoats works, and he is a fantastic narrator. So I am very hyped for this new release. I think for the most part, the rest of the books that I want to talk about are sequels. So the next one is The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson, which is the sequel to Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is coming out in June. And I liked Her Majesty's Royal Coven, but what threw me off was the fact that it was multiple perspective. But I do love an urban fantasy, and that's what this was. So I'm looking forward to seeing how all of the friends of the initial group that you're introduced to at the beginning react now that they're all adults and they have all their different beliefs and everything. And one of them works for this government section, one of them works for an independent, and one of them has just relinquished ties for both. So it'll be interesting to see how things go forward, because there's like a chosen child and chosen one kind of story vibe here. Then we've got a book that I'm a bit on the fence about, but I'm going to try it and see how I feel, because Black Sun was a 4 stars or 4.5 stars for me, and the beginning just sucked me in so much. And then Fevered Star, the sequel, was a 3 stars, and I feel similarly to how everyone else did regarding this sequel. It felt very kind of stand-in and had kind of second book syndrome in terms of manipulating and moving the characters where they needed to be in order for the third book. So I'm like, that could send the third book into the next level of me loving a story, or it could make me go, actually my favorite is book 1. So I'm not sure how this series is going to go, but I believe the third book is called The Mirrored Heavens, and that's coming in August. So I guess I'll check back in August to see if I read it on time, and hopefully I can knock a series off my to-be-read list. Then we've got a book coming out by Travis Baltrey, and I think this is actually a prequel to Legends and Lattes. It's called Bookshops and Bone Dust, and honestly I don't really know anything more. I'm assuming it's about someone starting a bookshop in the same way or a similar way to how Viv started the coffee shop in a city where nobody knew what coffee was. I feel like it's going to be a similar scenario with the bookshop happening. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it, because this was such a cozy, comforting read with coffee and baked goods and found family, and I think it's going to capture a very similar tone in Bookshops and Bone Dust, which I believe is coming out in June as well. No, I lied. I completely lied. I just checked my notes. It's not June. I just had June in my head from Juno Dawson. It's November, so gotta wait a while for this one, but I think it will be well worth it. Then we have a new series announcement, I think, and that is by V.E. Schwab, or Victoria Schwab, I think she goes by her full name now, and that is the Threads of Power series. I think Threads of Power is actually the name of book 1, but either way, it's a Darker Shade of Magic trilogy, the sequel to that whole trilogy. But I'm like, I read this years ago and I have no idea who anyone is anymore, so I need to reread all of those first. And luckily I have time to do that, because this comes out in October, or the 26th of September, but basically October, because I don't think I'll finish a massive fantasy book in 4 days. So for me, it's an October release. And then the last two I'm so excited about. Okay, so the first one is kind of obvious, because we had a massive announcement from Alice Oseman recently, and they were like, guess what? I thought volume 5 was going to be the final book in the Heartstopper series. No, we're having volume 6 as a surprise. So volume 5 is coming out at the end of the year in November, and then volume 6 is to be confirmed. But we also haven't got a release date confirmed for the second series of Heartstopper. So that makes me think that it's probably going to come out maybe February or so next year, because why not time it up with a Valentine's Day month if it's a romance series? I don't know. I think some of the other Heartstopper books have also come out around February, so that might be where I'm mentally associating the date with. But either way, we get another Heartstopper volume this year, and I was so devastated that we didn't get it at the beginning of the year, because I was like, what is happening with all these release dates? But no, we get it at the end of the year. So just prepare for me to shift my entire personality into becoming a Heartstopper person at the end of the year, because that is 100% what's going to happen. Am I going to rewatch the series again for the millionth time? Probably, because it's inevitable, right? I'm going to reread them all. I'm going to rewatch the show. It's going to be a great time. I just love it. It's so cozy and wholesome. So it's kind of in that romance contemporary wholesome vibe, in a similar way to Legends and Lattes, the fantasy version of that cozy vibe. It's just so wholesome and found family and just so good. So do read them. This is me telling more people to read them, but I'm sure everyone has. And then the final book in this list I'm very excited about, because my friend Marie was like, relevant to your interests, and sent me a message, and it was a link to the sequel of this, which now seems to have maybe a release date on Goodreads. It is Silver Under Nightfall, which she recommended to me in the first place. So both of us just lose our minds to each other about this book, because it is well founded. It is a paranormal, vampire, polyamorous, almost apocalyptic, medieval story about a rot taking over people. And that rot is becoming so corrupting that the different societies that are like human and vampire societies are trying to figure out where it originated from and trying to manufacture a cure for it as well. And so you've got Remy, your main character, who is the son to this, I don't know, well-off family in this era, and he's brought into looking for the cure for this virus with some noble court vampires, and it follows their kind of romance as well. It's like a sub story to the story that's already happening, so it doesn't necessarily dominate the story, but it's a key part of the story. And so I really like it when romance does that, because as soon as it becomes just about the romance, that's when I kind of lose a little bit of interest. But if romance is like spiced in there throughout the whole story in a balanced way, new favorite. And this was one of the best books of 2022, so the fact that we've got another one potentially releasing maybe at the end of this year, I'm not sure, it's either at the end of this year or it's October 2024. Either way, I've got time, but I'm still not going to stop thinking about it, because I'm so over the moon with this sequel release and the Heartstopper release. I'm so happy right now. I'm also sure that there are books that could have been on this list that I've completely forgotten about, because I always do that, but who cares? I'm going to talk about them in TBRs and wrap-ups anyway throughout the year. So if you have a release that I have missed or that you're excited about that I haven't mentioned, let me know down below in the comments. I would love to know what you're getting hyped up about, and if it's Heartstopper, because I imagine it might be, you're the best. But thank you so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.